I should be live. I'm going to make sure I have enough space for the hard recording.
So, yeah.
Sorry. All right. Oh, I got a comment there. I didn't quite see what that was. Give me just a second. What did that say? What is it? Overlay options. Display chat, display activity. Well, I didn't get the opportunity to see what it was. Appreciate y'all joining. Appreciate y'all doing the thing tonight. I don't remember. Did I get? I was supposed to friend him, and I forgot about it because I was busy trying to get the stream going. Yeah, that idiot alert by me. Yeah, there we go. Should be in there now. He's gonna invite me in just a second. I would like to try and just mess with the Don't mind me. Go. Well, I guess I'll go to Canada. I just want to try messing with the... What do you call it? I just want to try messing with the TV pod. Okay, so that almost looks gross, actually. Because I didn't realize what you have set to TV pod offset actually becomes... I mean, what everybody sees. So, I mean... I don't know what looks good and what doesn't. I mean, that looks good, but it's a bit wide. Camera shake we just don't need. I mean, see, that just looks terrible. Actually, it is what it is. It just looks gross. That looks more, at least, proper, but, I mean... Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to how it was, honestly, because... It just doesn't look good. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. What's that, -12? That looks a little better. You know what? To hell with it. We'll stay with the regular for now because honestly, I mean... Alright, let's go ahead and get into the session here. I always like to just do a couple of laps in time trial before I actually commentate the race, just so I know all the things. Just because, you know, the game's changed so much that I actually don't even remember what the deal is with you know, like how the cars feel around the circuit and whatnot. Thanks for streaming tonight. Always nice to watch back the action. Absolutely, that is the case for sure. I want to make sure I'm in the party at the moment. I always... The amount of times I've actually, like, gone into a race and forgotten that I wasn't in a party, like, it's upsetting. If you do... Okay, so here's the situation. If there comes to be a point where the stream looks like garbage, just let me know. Because live streaming it is a bit of a risk on my end, because there's no guarantee that it's going to work well. So again, if you're just joining, if the stream looks like garbage and it's not in good quality, I mean, I have it set. I'm actually a little surprised it works on 30 frames per second. If it doesn't look even at the very least acceptable, let me know. Like if it's actively lagging, if it's actively cutting in and out like glitchy, please let me know. I will. I mean, if it's not good, I will upload the hard recording, which I will have. I mean, that is always something I make sure to have, is the hard recording, so that if something does happen, I'm able to at least have a bit of a stream either way. This is actually, I think this is my last stream at my house, current setup. Believe it or not, I'm actually going to a real-life, like, broadcasting school in a couple of weeks. You need broadcasting school hotspot? What's that about? Well, I need the experience, because down that way in Connecticut, there is a lot of, I mean, ESPN's there, NBC's there. Then Boston's right around the corner, naturally, so there's a lot of stuff going on there, but, so yeah, that's pretty much the DL on that sort of thing, but, thanks, yo, MMR Hotspot, for the stream. Of course. Oh, we're about to start. All right. 10 seconds to go. Are you ready? I am. Hard recording is started. Let's have a good one. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to, what is this, round 14 of the CCRL Elite Tier season here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Hotspot on the call for you with what should be a very entertaining Grand Prix. 17 drivers on the grid tonight, and it should be another fun one. Unfortunately, again, Trackside couldn't join us. I guess he had internet troubles or something, whatever it is. I mean, he's missed a couple of banger races here these last 2 weeks, so it's slightly unfortunate. I believe, if I'm to be corrected, this is the full qualifying format. Now, we've only have 17 drivers on the grid, so we're only going to be losing 2 from the first session to the second session, but either way, should be an interesting one nonetheless. 5 seconds to go here, just a couple of drivers yet to join. And, well, while we have a minute, let's look at our driver and constructor standings coming into this week. Nick Nack atop the table still, although now he's got just over a 30-point lead back to Angry Walrus first to second, 357 to 326. It's going to be a very fun conclusion to this season, I can assure you that. Guzman in third at 301. He's in this battle as well, don't you forget. Reimer fourth at 288, only 5 points clear of the Alfa Romeo Johnny Damon at 283. Pontiac Bandit 187. He actually leads Merck by a single point to 186. Urban is in 8th, Owa 9th, and Curveball rounds out the top 10 as far as the Constructors' Championship goes. Alfa Romeo still lead the way considerably at 640. Behind Aston Martin takes second place away from Mercedes, 468. Mercedes now at 465, McLaren 386, AlphaTauri 340. They lead Ferrari by 10 at 330 for that 5th spot. Red Bull 235, Haas at 231. 4 points separate 7th from 8th, and then the battle for 9th, 160 to 130 in favor of Alpine over the Williams team. We do have cars coming out on track now for the first qualifying session of the evening. Remember, this is the full qualifying format here. So we will be losing positions 16 and 17 back the grid here. Curveball in the AlphaTauri is going to be our first driver out on a timed lap here. I do have a shout out to Reimer really quick. Dry quali, dry race. It's going to be some good looks there. Appreciate you, Reimer. So, dry quali and a dry race according to the man in the Mercedes. Curveball is going to be the first driver out here on the soft tires. I would assume we're going to see some on the mediums. Yes, we are. John the Prince and Bong it. Medium tires for both of them. Merck on the mediums as well. Agnote and Johnny Damon out on track on intermediates. That's a little bold, but fortune favors the bold is the saying as far as I know. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, about a 4-hour car drive from where I'm located in the U.S., Hopefully I'll be able to attend this year's Grand Prix. I was really hoping to last year and didn't quite have all my ducks in a row. And, well, when I say in a row, they weren't even in the same pond. But I'm hoping they're at least in the same pond this year and I can attend this very famous racetrack in Montreal, Canada. Curveball starting a lap now. Across the line he goes and into the first couple of corners here. The Senna corner here of Turn 2. And he's already invalidated his lap. That's about as anticlimactic as you could possibly get. Johnny Damon is on the intermediates. Let's go ahead and see him put together a lap here. I doubt anything's going to mean of it. in through the first couple of corners here, nice and easy. It's a left apex to a right apex. Got to be careful of oversteer on the way out in towards now the turn 3 and 4 chicane, where the infamous Sebastian Vettel versus Lewis Hamilton debacle happened. I believe that was 2019 is when that happened. In through turn 5 into the left-hander at turn 6. The exit of this corner, very crucial, because that'll set up the run for the DRS section out of this corner now, turn 7. Down the straight now, heading into the turn 8 and 9 chicane coming up here. Yellow flag going through sector 1. I believe it's the Red Bull of Agnote has had some sort of accident there. Yes, he has. He slid to the outside. And Agnote is disqualified from the session for going the wrong way, which is a very bold turn of events, because obviously we had just seen him spin to the outside, and the car apparently was facing the wrong way for too long, and the game did not like that. And that's about as unfortunate of a circumstance as you could possibly had. We're on now with Hemp Head as he goes in towards the hairpin here at turn 10. Exits the corner, a little bit shaky. Down the backstretch now, the Casino Straight. Heading in towards the Wall of Champions, one of the most infamous chicanes in Formula 1 history. Turns 12 and 13 here. Got to be careful of track limits on both the way in and the way out. The AlphaTauri of Pontiac Bandit, 113, 163. Hemphead across the line now. He'll go P2, 113, 457. Not a bad lap at all there for the Williams, as Pontiac Bandit for the time being, and I say for the time being, is not anymore. John the Prince, 112, 323 on the medium tires, no less. Pontiac Bandit set his on the softs, and John the Prince has done that by 0.3 of a second on the mediums. Very nicely done. Komakopa's gone second. That's a fun name to say. I always do enjoy seeing the different gamer tags that we see here. Komakopa's gone second in his Alpine. 3.5 off the pace. Bong at third. Next across the line is one of the Aston Martin drivers. I believe it is that of R. Manson's starting one here. Let's go along with the Aston Martin. Makes his way into the first couple of corners. Well, it doesn't get the exit of the corner all that well. Has to be said, a little bit slow. Curveball's gone second. About 1/4 of a second off the pace. Into turns 3 and 4, looking pretty good. Through turn 5 now. I mean, it's hard to not look good through this corner. Turn 6 here, this is the tricky one. You got to take a lot of the curb on the inside, and then you got to be wary of oversteer on the outside. It's a difficult one to get right, this. There's not going to be a lot of overtaking down this back straight, but that'll set up kind of the run into the chicane, and then the run into the hairpin after it. Naturally, this hairpin, the site of where Robert Kubica had his massive shunt in Tuever and whatever the hell it was. I've only been in that. I'm going to say this now. Don't at me for my lack of like real F1 history. I only really started watching in 2020. Into the Wall of Champions chicane now. R. Manson looks like he's got a halfway decent lap going. He's held exit very nicely there, has to be said. Down the pit straight and across the line he goes. He goes 5th, 113.027. 0.7 of a second off of John the Prince's provisional pole time here in Q1. Not bad at all, though. I mean, that looks to me like it's going to be a safe attempt from R. Manson. Remember, only one driver now will be kicked off the island here as we go into Q2, as Agnote gets disqualified for spinning, and then the game recognizing that he's pointing the wrong direction, and then, well, yeah, disqualifying him for little to no reason, has to be said. This game is, this game costs real money. Anyways, Gundolf on a timed lap now. He's making his way through turn 5 in the Alpine. It looks as if, curveball is retired, and that is coming out of what is that, turn 1 there? Turn 2, yes, there he is, to the inside of the circuit. And that, the car just got sucked into the earth there. That's a very odd place to go off like that. Typically, if we see the oversteer happen, what's wrong with John the Prince? Seriously, sometimes we'll see it there, and we'll see a complete spin. We won't see a crash and a shunt that heavily to the inside. He must have absolutely had it pinned to the floor. And that is the end result of Curveball's qualifying Q1 there. And I think as well, that may not allow him into Q2. As you can see, he's currently P15, although he does have the time on the board. I'm not really sure what the deal is with that. But Gundolf out of the final chicane now, the Wall of Champions. Down the pit straight and across the line he goes. He will go P7, 113.340. Not a terrible attempt from Gundolf, as the other McLaren of Guzman, 111.315, beats his teammate by just under 0.4 of a second. That's a good-looking lap there from Guzman. The driver who's not on the grid tonight is the Alfa Romeo of Knick-Knack Paddywhack, who currently, by the way, leads the championship, and he's not here. This is going to be a massive race for those that are looking to get some points on the board here. I just want to check the race results last week. I think there may have been, there may have been steward reports involved. So Guzman taking the win last week, up 16 positions. Is this the sprint, or is this the... this is the real. Reimer finishing second. Knick-Knack down to P14 after, 30 seconds of steward penalties. Sorry, I don't even, really remember that much. Knick-Knack for collision on lap 15. Knick-Knack collision on lap 16. That's at least 2 reports already with Knick-Knack's name on it from both Urban and John the Prince. And then if we look at the stewards' reports from last week, Knick-Knack Paddywhack, 3 separate 10-second penalties. And I tell you what, that's enough to get any driver upset having penalties at all, and that's probably why he's not here. Charlie Gulf has gone third, 112.074 on his medium tires. It's good to see we got some drivers on the mediums for the time being. 9 minutes to go in Q1 here, although I believe we already have our drivers who aren't making it through. Curveball and Onyote. So these laps here, kind of formalities, has to be said. Charlie's just finished his. Next up to the line, I believe, is going to be one of the Mercedes drivers. I believe it is that of Reimer, who is only just starting one here on the medium tires for currently what I believe, what did I say he was? Second place in the championship? I should know these things off the top of my head. I'm incredibly sorry. I happen to be slightly not good at remembering things. Reimer fourth in the standings, only 23 points behind Guzman for that third place in the standings, although Guzman has been on a tear recently, that part's for sure. Reimer through turns 4 and 5 now, or sorry, 3 and 4. This is turn 5. The turn 6 and 7, little switch back and forth here. Tell you what, he's held exit at turn 7 brilliantly there. Hardly any oversteer, none at all, as a matter of fact. One of the best takings of that corner we've seen so far. Through the 8 and 9 chicane here. Exits the corner in towards the hairpin now. A little bit of traffic in the way. The Haas to the outside. The Aston Martin ahead. That is the Aston Martin of Angry Walrus as Reimer goes past. Down the casino straight now, heading towards the Wall of Champions chicane. See what kind of lap Reimer has up for him here. The top 3 separated by 7.5 tenths. The rest outside of that second margin. Reimer to the line's gone second, 111.575. Is now within a quarter of a second of Guzman. That's a pretty good lap there. Tell you what, though, for the moment, it looks as if Guzman might have a good qualifying going here. Of course, still 2 sessions to come. You're never sure what's going to happen in the future, naturally. But Armant's about to start one here. So is Scheisty in his Haas. We do have, Is that Gundolf coming to the line now? Gundolf 5/100th slower through Sector 2. He does improve by 3.5 tenths up to P7. Just about a tenth behind his teammate of Komakopa. Or Komakopa? Yeah, that's a good one. Angry Walrus in towards turns 8 and 9 now as he exits the corner, down the straight, in towards the hairpin. Pretty much clear track ahead of him here. Let's see what kind of laps he's going to be able to put down. It's Purple Sector 2 for him, naturally. 6 minutes and 15 seconds remaining. Hemphead is retired, that being on track. And that is similarly going in out of turn 2. Now, this is where we saw Curveball have his off. And yes, Hemphead is gone. That car off at the barriers. As Johnny Damon, not too long ago, took provisional pole. Has about 4/10 of a second back to Guzman. But I tell you what, 3 cars will not find at the end of the session, and Angry Walrus 110.527. That, I tell you what, to be in the 110 range is, pretty good, I would think. I can't do it, that's for sure. 5.5 minutes remaining to the session here. 0.4 of a second separate the top two. Down the backstretch now we have Gundolf, although I'm afraid he has invalidated his lap. Pontiac Bandit's not on a timer here as well. Shiesty's invalidated his. Merck on an outlap, making his way into turn 3 and 4. Manson, I believe, is Manson on the flyer now? It does appear that he is. And no, I was wrong. I believe he's on low fuel. Yep, just about there. So no drivers on track, currently on timed attempts, although it looks as if Pontiac Bandit is going to be starting one here. Let's go along with the AlphaTauri, why not? Into the first corner here. These couple of corners, always a fun one. Oh, you got the Ferrari on the outside. Now that Ferrari doing the right thing, because that's where pit exit is. But as far as Pontiac Bandit is concerned, seeing that Ferrari go straight in front of him there, that'll be slightly annoying to him. Again, the Ferrari hasn't done anything wrong. He stayed to pit exit into turn 6 and 7 now. Pontiac Bandit 2.6 off of our provisional pole time for the moment. Remember, still 2 more sessions of qualifying yet to come. Exiting turns 8 and 9, down the straight in towards the hairpin now. About 9/100 slower through Sector 2. That tells me that car might be... Well, I don't want to say it's set up for the straight line, although, I don't know, it's a tough ask. Let's see what he does here. Down the casino straight, heading to the Wall of Champions chicane. Let's see if what his time is now. Johnny Damon's retired, that being in the pit lane. Less than 4 minutes to go now, and across the line goes Pontiac Bandit. 1:12.938 improves by 2.5 of a second there, up to P12 for the AlphaTauri. Ooh, the Ferrari of Merck's had a go around here. Yes, he has. This is exiting turns... what is that? That is exiting the 8 and 9 chicane, which is a bit of an odd place to see a driver go off. But I'm assuming, again, he may have just had some oversteer on exits. And, well, that car is now missing a front wing, unfortunately for him. He'll have to limp it back to the pit lane, but, well, he hasn't DNF'd, so no harm, no foul. Bongett making his way through the 6 and 7 chicane. Now, I believe he might still be on a flyer here. AlphaTauri to the inside. I don't see the recharge light on, so I'm going to assume this one he's trying. And as he exits the 8 and 9 chicane, what does he get at the timing line? It's going to be... Not there yet. There it is. Quicker by 3.5 of a second so far. That'll put him roughly P8. That'll help him leapfrog his teammate of Merck. Exits the hairpin down the casino straight now. The majority of the grid in the pit lane. Of course, remember, we still have Q2 and Q3 to come. We're only losing a couple of drivers here. Next one, we're really going to see drivers go for it here. Into the Wall of Champions chicane is Bongett. Exits quite nicely. Down the pit straight he goes, looking a good lap. Well, I tell you what, he gained about... He shaved off his time there by 0.2 of a second. He's only gone up to P10. 12/1000 of a second behind Komakopa there for P9. As the Alpine in question into the hairpin, about to start another timed lap here. Only 4 cars on track at the moment. As Curveball, Hemphead, and Agnote, remember, all DNFing there for their own respective reasons, although what I will say is that Curveball and Hemphead losing the car and DNFing in a very similar part of the track to both of them in similar fashion as well. Agnote disqualified for whatever reason the game chose. Apparently he was facing the wrong way after a spin, and the game chose to hit him with the book. Into the first couple of corners is Komakopa, exits turn 2. Heading towards the 3 and 4 chicane now, 90 seconds remaining in the session. I think at this point these laps are pretty much just for pride. And kind of some statement laps, I would say. Into turn 6 and 7. Good exit of turn 7. That was pretty clean there. In towards turn 8 and 9 now. This is where we saw, I believe, Bongett last time. Or it was either him or Merck. One of the Ferraris had the accident coming out of that chicane. Half a second quicker through Sector 2. That's a massive improvement for the Alpine. Out of the hairpin he goes down the casino straight now. 45 seconds remaining in the session. He's one of only 2 drivers left out on track. as DRL Racer X retires, that being in the pit lane. Into the wall of champions chicane he goes. Shiesty is retired, and I think we're going to start to see the groups of drivers retire from the session here. Komakopa to the line, goes P8, improves by half a second, 112, 140 I believe was the time, and it's P8 for him. And I believe the Haas of Shiesty retiring on track here, so that will be your session. Although, well, Komakopa is still on track. He made the checkered flag beforehand, but this is going to be the end of it here. Angry Walrus, 1:10.527, fastest time of the session so far. Koma retiring, getting the session moving on here. Very nicely done. Much as I don't like seeing drivers retire on track, that was absolutely necessary, has to be said. Angry Walrus, a driver that's making some serious headway in the championship. Provisional pole through Q1 by about 0.4 of a second over Johnny Damon. A lot of drivers choosing the medium tires. These aren't going to be, I would say, representative times, as only 2 drivers were not going to make the cut. Those 2 drivers are, in fact, that of Curveball, Hemphead, and Agnote, 2 of which not finishing the session. Agnote getting disqualified earlier on. Curveball would have made the show if he had just not DNF'd there. Hemphead would not have. He was slower by about 0.5 of a second, but Curveball was in the clear by about 0.4 heading in the session. So Q2 on the way. 14 drivers looking to make it through to Q3. Angry Walrus has a very good starting time here. Let's see who the next big player here is in Q2. Now this is where the action is going to pick up here. That's just the bottom line. We're going to be seeing the drivers make their way. 14 drivers on the grid for Q2 here. Remember, it should be 15, but we did have 2 drivers DNF, and then the third, unfortunately, get disqualified. So that results in only 14 for Q2. We will lose P11 on back. And it has to be said, there's a lot of competition between those some of the midfield drivers. Looks like the Ferrari of Merck's going to be the first one out on track here. There's a lot of competition in the midfield, which I think is why we're going to start to see many drivers come out on track here. Merck's going to be the first one out. Getting the chance to warm up the tires here. Only a 15-minute Q2 as opposed to, was it the 16 or 17 in Q1? Something like that. Johnny Damon has rejoined the session after he had temporarily left. He's back now. 3 drivers out on track here in the early going. We're also being joined by one of the McLarens. I believe it is that of John the Prince, as well as the Mercedes of Reimer, and the other Alpha Tauri of Pontiac Bandit. It'll be interesting to see who's going to make the jump. I think what we saw last time, again, we didn't see many representative laps from the drivers on the grid. I mean, they knew pretty much all they had to do was get laps together. And pretty much once the third driver had retired, it was pretty much all said and done. As long as you get the car back to the pit lane and have a time on the board, you were going to make it to Q2. And so now, business is about to pick up here. So through the wall of champion chicane, Merck on a timed lap now, about to come across the start-finish line. There it is. Into the first corner he goes. He's got his teammate ahead of him. That being Bungit through turn 1 into turn 2. Holds the apex of turn 2 very tightly. Sometimes you'll see drivers go a little bit further around the outside, but in towards turn 3 and 4 now. How does he handle it? Close to the wall there on exit. That's a brilliant camera angle. That through turn 5 now, in towards turns 6 and 7. Doesn't use much of the apex curve through turn 6. That may hurt his time there. Sometimes you want to cut that as much as you can. Exits turn 7 nicely. DRS activated into the 8 and 9 chicane. Heavy over the initial entry curb. May have hurt his time a little bit there. He had to kind of back the car down a little bit to get him through the chicane safely. Into the hairpin now. His teammate ahead of him. This might be a very nice tow here from provided by Bongit. As the pair of Ferraris down the casino straight now. Little bit too far back to get the tow, but it was there. Down the casino straight goes Merck. This is looking like it's going to be a halfway decent time here. Into the wall of champion chicane. Exits nicely. DRS activated once more as he makes his way into turn 1, and it's going to be a 1:11.307. That is a very respectable time from Merck. Again, we only saw one driver in the 110 range in Q1, so Merck, that looks like it may be a solid enough answer for him, at least for now. Still a lot of time remaining in the session, but that is a good time to have. A couple of drivers coming to the line now. It's going to be the Aston Martin of R. Manson down the straight. Behind him, the McLaren. Manson to the line, P2, and now P3, 1:12.612. John the Prince is now third, as Reimer, 1:11.249. Less than 6/100ths of a second separate the Reimer from the Ferrari of Merck. John the Prince third. Good lap from him to start. That'll put a second and a half for Manson and Pontiac Bandit back to the pole time. John the Prince at 3/10. I think even that could maybe get him safe into Q3. Could be wrong. Still a lot of time left here, and I would assume the drivers are only going to get faster. Johnny Damon, this is the lap I want to look out for here. In through turn 3 and 4 now. The chicane. Exits nicely. Doesn't use a lot of curb on the way out. It's a 19.6 through Sector 1, in through 6 and 7 now. Across the line was the Ferrari of Bongit, who's gone P5, a clean 0.8 of a second off the pace. Johnny Damon into turns 8 and 9 now. Holds it very nicely, has to be said. Into the hairpin he goes. Purple Sector 2 from him, naturally. Walrus, a 1:10.716. Remember, he took the top spot in Q1. Also in the 110 range. He separates himself and Reimer half a second. 10 minutes to go now in Q2. Johnny Damon in through the wall of champions. Maybe a little bit slower, but it's clear. It was a clean one. And DRL Racer X disqualified for blocking the pit lane. As Johnny Damon, a 1:10.380. And, well, I'm not entirely sure what the deal was with Racer X, but the game has disqualified him, and that's going to be the end of it. Does not even get a time on the board. He will start the Grand Prix from P14. Tell you what, this game not afraid to hand out the disqualifications here. It's 2 drivers already. Anyote in Q1 very early on, as Owa joining the fray now. I believe that was the Haas of Charlie Golf, who's just gone P8. Ahead of him, the Alpine of Gundolf, who I believe has just gone that 9th spot. We do have Guzman and the McLaren on the outlap here. One of only 2 drivers yet to put together timed attempts, that being Scheisty and the Haas, and Guzman himself and the McLaren. Remember, this is Q2. Only the top 10 get through to Q3. So, we will be seeing, despite DRL Racer X having been disqualified there, still 3 cars are going to be on the outside looking in. The McLaren of John the Prince, I believe, has just finished one. He is making his way through Sector 1 now. Guzman about to start. Out of the wall of championship chicane, down the pit straight he goes, and across the line. This is the first time attempt of the session for Guzman, in towards turn 1. Uses a lot of curb on the inside, cuts it very well. Hangs the apex close through turn 2. Exits very nicely there. That was pretty clean. To the inside, a little bit of traffic there with the Alpine. Through 3 and 4. Lots of curb being used, and on the exit as well. This is looking a very clean lap so far from the McLaren. Ideally, or well, understandably, the hard part of the track is pretty much over at this point. All you have to worry about now is that turn 8 and 9 chicane, and then Wall of Champions. The hairpin is fairly self-explanatory. All you have to do is pick a good braking zone, hope you don't go too deep, and get good acceleration on the way out. Exits turns 8 and 9 well into the hairpin coming up here. It's a 41.9 on the way in. Uses a little bit more of the outside than anything else. Sometimes you see the driver stick close to the inside of the apex. That wasn't the case for Guzman. As down the casino straight now, is he going to provide a little bit of a toe to John the Prince? Although the toe doesn't mean much, it still could help the entry into the Wall of Champion chicane. Guzman exits turns 12 and 13. Down the pit straight he goes. And a 1:10.496. Only one of 2 drivers. Sorry, is that 3 drivers now? 4, sorry. 4 drivers within the 110 range. Remember, it was Angry Walrus in Q1 was the only driver that we had saw in that session going to the 110s. And so that is a very good time there from Guzman, is behind Johnny Damon by just over a tenth of a second. Speaking of Angry Walrus, he's on an outlap now. He's making his way into the hairpin. We do have coming up here Manson in the Aston Martin, as well as behind him, I believe that is the AlphaTauri of Pontiac Bandit on the way, and he looks as if he's had a good Sector 2, only improves by half a second. I say only improves because he's only gone from P12 to P11. He will need to do more, and he's kind of running out of time to do just that. The Haas behind him of Scheisty, making his way through the hairpin, yet to put together a timed attempt. The Aston Martin of Angry Walrus about to start one here, took the top spot in Q1. Let's see what he has to offer here, as down the pit straight he goes, in towards the first corner. 6 minutes and 5 seconds remaining now. Little bit of lockup going in towards turn 2, but he's held it well. Heading into 3 and 4. A lot of curb on the inside, a lot on the outside. Nearly touches the wall coming out of turn 4, but he's held it well. Tell you what, Walrus very much looking like a worthy contender in this Grand Prix so far. If he can just put the laps together cleanly, very possible that he could walk out of today the winner. For the moment, he's P3. To the Sector 2 timing line now, improves by nearly 0.6 of a second. This will put him well on pole. Exits the hairpin nicely, down the casino straight now. Let's see what kind of top speeds he's hitting here. 100 and... well, it's going to be 200 miles an hour here, about halfway down the straight into the chicane. He'll be at 204. DRS activated one more time, down the pit straight and across the line for Walrus. Provisional pole 110.016, nearly into the 109s. That is going to be ridiculous, and that's a great time from Angry Walrus with less than 5 minutes remaining here. Very, very solid indeed. It looks as if Merck is starting one now as he exits turn 2. Only 4 drivers on track so far. I think 2 out of the... well, Bongit's about a tenth quicker through Sector 1. 3 out of the 4 on timed laps now. That includes both Ferraris. And the Haas of Charlie, who is making his way into the hairpin now. Sorry, not the Haas of Charlie. Although I think he was. Yeah, it looked as if he was. The recharge light is not on. But I think the car behind, the Aston Martin, I guess he thought was on a flyer there. Huh. A little bit odd. Bongit out of the Wall of Champion chicane, down the pit straight he goes, and across the line for the Ferrari goes P7, 111.764, improves by about 0.3 of a second there. That's a pretty good lap. I'm not going to call him safe, because if Charlie, Pontiac, Manson, or Scheisty decide to put one in the 111.5 range, we could be on our way for a really good shootout here. For making it into Q3. I don't know if it's the time or what. I am dragging at this point. This is currently... I'm assuming this is a Central-based league. 10:40 at night here on the East Coast. I mean, this is getting even late for me. But happy to be here. Try to remain as energetic as I can, although, these days been slightly tired, getting ready to move down south a little bit more as I go into broadcasting school. 2 minutes and 45 seconds remaining in the session now. Bongit coming around the line. This is going to be a timed lap here from the Ferrari. Yes, it is. He's faster by 0.2 of a second. I think he's done 2 flying laps consecutively there, as he is completely depleted his energy store. 2.5 minutes remaining. Only 5 drivers on track at the moment. Although we are going to be seeing, with 2 minutes and 15 to go, we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers make their way on track now. I would say anybody from P7 of Bongit all the way down, could be in a good position here. Bong it, let's see. Currently at a 1:11.5. 1:12.1 is the cutoff time at the moment. That's P10, and Pontiac Bandit has 0.4 of a second to try to get above that, so he'll have to improve. He's in the pits still, and now he's on his way out. We've got the Mercedes of Reimer coming through now. I believe he's going to be starting one here. Yep, he invalidated his previous attempt, so Reimer on track now, looking to put one together. Through the first couple of corners, looks like he's holding it very well. Clear track ahead of him, 90 seconds remaining in the session. Angry Walrus looking to improve even more, looking to become the first driver into the 109s in the session so far. One of the Haas drivers around the line, that is Charlie, the driver currently at risk. And he's been done in there. That's R. Manson, who's gone P7, 1:11.461. That has moved Komakopa down to P10. Of course, he's got about 0.2 of a second clear of Charlie, but this battle getting into Q3 here might get interesting. Charlie on his way through Sector 2 now. Pontiac Bandits at the hairpin. He'll be starting one shortly, although he doesn't have much time here. 40 seconds remain. Gundolf at P10. Komakopa in the proceedings has gone 9th. Has about 0.4 of a second clear of P11 at the moment. His teammate of Gundolf is about to start one here. We do have the AlphaTauri of Pontiac Bandit as well. Angry Walrus making his way down the casino straight now. Pontiac Bandit into the first corner. Currently sitting at a 1:12.5. He'll need, I estimate, at least a 1:11.7 to be at least at that point in. Time has expired here in Q2. The top three are as they are. Reimer on a time lap now, making his way through turn 6 and 7. Pontiac Bandits as... Oh, Charlie! Well, I tell you what, that may have been something there. Gundolf is ghosted there. Charlie has spun the car coming out of turn 2 into the barrier. We saw two drivers in Q1 have a very similar incident, and that is not very ideal for the Haas whatsoever. Gundolf is not going to be able to make his way back. Komakopa goes 9th. Gundolf, I don't believe, is going to be able to improve. It's going to be up to Pontiac Bandit now. 0.3 of a second quicker through Sector 2 as he makes his way down the backstretch now. The casino straight. Can Pontiac Bandit spoil the party here into the Wall of Champions chicane? He only needs a 1:11.6 to make it happen. To the line he goes. Oh, and he's going to be well shy. A 1:12.046. He improves a lot, but unfortunately does not get into the 1:11 range, and he is out of qualifying now. Reimer on low fuel. That is your session. Angry Walrus makes it 2 sessions in a row, taking the top spot. 5 drivers into the 1:10s. It's that 1/10 of a second difference between P1 to P5. Walrus taking the top spot here. So far looking like, I would say, the most complete driver on the grid for the time being. I mean, still a lot of action left to come here. Just waiting for Reimer and I think Gundolf's car to make their way into the pit lane. But Walrus taking the top spot in Q2. Come on, who are we waiting for? Just the Alpine. Car's still not in the garage yet. There it is, finally. So, on their way into Q3, it is that of Angry Walrus taking the top spot once more. He's got a 3.5 of a second advantage over Johnny Damon in second place. Third is Guzman, fourth Reimer. John the Prince, fifth. Merck, sixth. Manson, seventh. Bong at eighth. And Komakopa, ninth. Now, Charlie, despite getting P10, did crash and DNF from the session. So, he will not make it through to Q3. He will start from P10, but it will only be the top 9 spots up for grabs here. And, well, it's only a second and a half between all 9 drivers through that session. Could very well be an opportunity to see another driver make their way into the top 5. But for the time being, Angry Walrus, again, looks like the most complete driver on track so far. And as they go to Q3, you have to believe he's the favorite. Johnny Damon in second, Guzman third. I feel like both of those drivers had very solid attempts to get the top spot there, but that's not the session that matters. That's going to be the one coming up next. And I tell you what, it's become a rather cloudy day here in Montreal. Well, only the top 9 here. It's a 12-minute session. Remember, Charlie Gulf did make it to the line and went P10, but crashed his car coming out of turn 2. And that's why he has not joined the session here. John the Prince, Reimer, Bongit, Guzman, Merck, Manson, Damon, Walrus, and Komakopa. Your top 9 here, whatever order they're going to be in. Well, we'll have to wait and see. 2 Aston Martins, 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens. And the only other drivers, the Mercedes of Reimer, the Alfa Romeo of Johnny Damon, and Komakopa. The lone Mercedes, the lone Alfa Romeo as well. And it looks as if we're going to get the whole lot on track here. Looks like the first car out is going to be the Aston Martin of Angry Walrus. Now, this is a session we really aren't going to be seeing many drivers. You know, they're not going to beat around the bush in this session. They're going to go for it. And I'm thinking, well, see, this is interesting for Walrus because he hasn't necessarily felt any pressure until now. Of course, he had 3.5 tenths of a second to the top to second place in Q2. Nearly got into the 109 range. We're not there quite yet, only 15 1,000ths off. But Walrus now, if he wasn't feeling pressure before, he's going to be feeling it now. Not because there's any drivers necessarily close to him, but this is the session that counts. So we'll have to wait and see how he adapts to the pressure. The only one driver remaining in the pit lane is the McLaren of John the Prince. Everybody else on track. And John the Prince, as I say that, making his way out. Angry Walrus is going to be the first driver around here, making his way into the Wall of Champions chicane. Exits, DRS activated, and down the pit straight he goes. Behind him is Johnny Damon. 10 minutes in the session here. Maybe 2, maybe 3 attempts possible. Yeah, I would say only 2, really, especially if you underfuel the car through turns 3 and 4. Very overcast day as it's become here. Oh, the back end has gotten away from Walrus there. He's kept the car going, but under braking, that car really wanted to go around from him. And I'm sure he's going to be happy that he's kept the car under control, although, again, just getting a time on the board here will be helpful as he makes his way in towards turn 10. Now, did I just see rain? Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that rain I'm seeing? Yes, it is. There is rain happening now. Q3 is becoming wet now, and that's why we're seeing all but one driver on a timed lap. It's because that rain is falling. And I tell you what, if they don't get their laps completed, and I tell you what, Walrus, he may not get pole here if the track gets wet. That wasn't the best attempt from him. It's a 1:10.5. I tell you what, that's a good lap from Walrus. It may not be enough for pole. Reimer into the Wall of Champions chicane now. The track is not wet yet. DRS activated here. Johnny Damon off by just over a tenth of a second. Reimer goes third. The pair of the Ferraris up next. Merck goes fourth. Bongit to the line now. Does he go fourth? Yes, he does. Guzman up now. He'll go third. And somehow, I tell you what, Walrus, who I didn't think had that good of a lap, may just keep his time. Sixth is our Manson. To the line now is the Alpine of Komakopa. He'll go sixth with a 1:12.138. John the Prince only starting his now. And no, he's invalidated this and next. And as the rain is definitely falling. It doesn't look as if it's falling enough yet to get the track damp enough for intermediate tires, but if that's the case, those are your results. Right there, Walrus will get pole. I mean, if that track gets wet, and they go to the intermediates, they will not be beating the times set on the dry compounded tires, and into the pit lane they go. So Walrus, I'd have to believe, is on pole here. Unless the track mysteriously dries up quickly enough, that will be essentially the end of the session. Guzman's still on track, although I have a feeling he'll be in shortly. Komakopa on track, although it looks to me like he may still be going for it here. No, he's not got enough battery, has he? Nope, he'll be into the pit lane here shortly. Manson as well. John the Prince has invalidated this and next, and I don't believe he's going to get a time on the board, but it looks like he will try one more time. Exits the wall of champion chicane. Does John the Prince have anything here? Well, his time has started. Again, the track not wet yet. Doesn't even appear to be greasy in the way that we would notice in order to go to the intermediate tires. In through 3 and 4 now. It still looks as if he has enough grip to make this lap count, at least for the time being. Every other driver in the pit lane. I think once John the Prince finishes this lap, we're going to see everybody retire, and that's going to be the session. DRS activated still. I'm surprised Race Control hasn't deactivated it. Into turn 8 and 9 now. Very ginger in the braking application into the chicane. Heading into the hairpin at turn 10 now. The track, kind of visibly wet now. It's starting to say, yep, you can start to see it puddling. But John the Prince, as he exits the hairpin down the casino straight now, if he's even able to leapfrog Merck here, that would be a good attempt. Although I think, as he heads into Wall of Champions, I think it's going to be a bit slow here, and he's invalidated anyways. That looks as if it's going to be the session. Angry Walrus, however, now this is interesting. Walrus has gone back out on track. He's on another set of soft tires. And we're also seeing a couple of drivers now. John the Prince has stayed out. Komakopa back out on track. Is this rain going to subside here shortly? We wouldn't be seeing Walrus on track if that wasn't the case. I think maybe in this 5.5 minutes we have remaining here, could we see dry running again? For the time being, it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case. This is a interesting... Yeah, I mean, the track is too wet for the dries now, surely. Under 5 minutes to go. I have to believe that that's going to be how the session ends. Unless do we get John the Prince, who is invalidated there, and I believe, as he did invalidate going through Wall of Champions, it's the second time he's gone and done in a this and next. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and assume... Well, Walrus has stayed out here. Walrus is going for it, I guess. The rain is still falling. The track is still visibly wet here. You'll see that... not necessarily begin to puddle up, but it definitely appears to be greasy. Komakopa on a timer here as well. I mean, I highly doubt these times are going to be for anything here. Komakopa seems to have given up. Walrus, I guess, just still puttering around here, perhaps. But Walrus in his 1:10.498 now. That would not have gotten the top spot in Q2. I believe that would have been about P3, P4. And I tell you what, had that rain showed up about 2 minutes later as Komakopa retires on track, should that time, should the rain have stayed put for another 2 minutes, I'm not entirely sure Walrus's time would have held water, really. I mean, that lap, not one of the better ones he'd put on the board. I think he may have... kind of gotten away with a good steal there, has to be said. Well, we're going to see Walrus come into the pit lane here shortly, and that's going to be the session with 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining. Still the Grand Prix yet to come here. 17 drivers on the grid tonight. A lot of them have been waiting for some time now. Anyote, Hemphead, to name a few. A couple of drivers not making it out of Q2. They will have still had a fair idea of how the circuit's going to hold up. But those drivers that went in Q1, We're going to be, well, ice cold here to say the least, as Walrus makes his way in. And I'm pretty sure that's just going to be how the session ends. Komakopa, the only driver to retire so far. I'm hoping we're going to see the drivers kind of get with it here. As Guzman retiring now, yep, that's what we're going to start to see. So Damon misses out on pole by just over 1/10 of a second in what I thought could have been a very competitive session had the rain not fallen. Guzman, 0.3 of a second, the top three within that second range. Reimer in fourth. He's only cleared Bongit by about 4/100ths there. That may be an interesting battle off the line. DRS now disabled. That means the race control has declared it officially wet. We are now seeing Angry Walrus on track. He's fit the intermediate tires. Again, we are slated for a dry Grand Prix. This is simply reconnaissance laps here, I would assume. With 1:45 remaining here. There's no way we're going to beat the times on the intermediates that we set on the softs. Huh. Interesting. 90 seconds remaining in the session here. Walrus choosing to be out on track. Well, it doesn't really matter much, but the car looks pretty good in the wet, has to be said. Minute to go here in the session. Walrus already knowing that he's going to be on pole, just waiting out for the time here. It's a shame the rain started so early in the session there. We were out of the pit lane, and then Walrus had only just finished his outlap, and the rain had started falling. And into the pit lane he goes. And we're going to be seeing the Aston Martin on pole, which is kind of what we expected. This isn't going to be in the necessarily the method that we thought it was going to happen. Still yet to come, I believe, 35 laps of the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve here for the Canadian Grand Prix here in CCRL, the elite tier, in what's been a very entertaining season so far. I've only been around since about round 11. Well, here's your starting grid then. Well, at least the top 9. The top 9 go like this. Walrus starts first, Damon second, Guzman third, Reimer fourth, Bongit fifth, Komakopa sixth, Manson seventh, Merck eighth, and John the Prince rounds out the top 9. It will be that of Charlie Gulf starting 10th. Remember, he had crashed out at the end of Q2, and that's why we do not see him here in Q3. But, well, Walrus, undoubtedly the quickest driver on the grid so far here today. Whether he holds that or not during the race is going to be the question. A lot of drivers hungry to gain some position in the drivers and constructors standings. Should be an entertaining Grand Prix here. And now here we go. Kind of much more of what we expected. Bright and sunny day here in Montreal. Just a quick look at the schedule yet to come. If I can find it. There it is. Montreal this week. We head to the Miami Autodrome next week. Miami, say what you will about it. I mean, it's not a bad track. We've seen some good racing there in the virtual world. The real life has not yet provided us with the barn burner quality of Grand Prix that they intended. Portimao on the 27th. Barcelona, April 3rd. Vegas, April 17th. Baku, April 24th. The Hungaroring on May the 1st. May 8th is Redemption Night at Paul Ricard, the penultimate round of the season. By the way, as well as the Portimao round is going to be Redemption as well. And Yas Marina to round out the season. Well, it's just struck 11 o'clock here on the east coast of the United States. "35 laps left to yet to come here. Very old school style track this. A lot of corners, a lot of patience testing sections. It's going to be about who makes the least amount of mistakes tonight. That's pretty much going to be the bottom line. Those 17 quality drivers on the grid. Although I think we did see Urban join. Yeah, there's Urban. You see his name atop the Mercedes garage there. So now we have both Mercedes on the grid. He'll be starting P18. Looks as if we're going to be about ready to go here. For the Canadian Grand Prix. Should be very entertaining. Want to take the time now to thank you for allowing us into your homes for tonight and every race we've had so far this season on what's been a very entertaining Grand Prix. I tell you what, again, I say this pretty much every time, the quality of the racing and the quality of the qualifying sessions as well has been outstanding. And a lot of drivers on this grid I'm not really familiar with. Only a couple do I really recognize. Reimer being one of them. Johnny Damon I've seen from time to time. And, well, that's really about it. As I've come to learn here, this is a very competitive grid. Though it looks as if it's been dominated by the Alfa Romeo so far this season, there's great battling up and down this grid, and I'm hoping we're going to see much of the same here today. Just waiting for the signal. From Bongit, the party host here, the race host. And, well, Bongit has informed me that formation lap is off, and, well, what you're going to see is what you're going to get. These drivers are going to have out of here in just a couple of seconds' time. Angry Walrus will lead them off the grid. Once again, formation lap is off. When we cut to the grid, it will be time to race. Angry Walrus, who kind of lucked out on getting on pole there in Q3, is going to have to defend it here. The lights are on, and here in Montreal, they are off. Angry Walrus does get away well as he has the inside in toward the first corner. Gets away much better over Johnny Damon. Guzman gets down to the inside. It looks as if Guzman in the McLaren is going to get that second spot. Johnny Damon, perhaps on the hard tires, did not have the best start there. Copa having to defend Bongit to the outside there. It's going to be side by side as they make their way into turn 3 and 4. It's a bit of a difficult part of the track, and Curveball is retired. That at the back, and the safety car out already. And that is coming out of turn 2. As we have now, that is the AlphaTauri of Pontiac Bandits off at the inside on the way out of turn 3 into turn 4. Safety car on track here early. The majority of the grid choosing the hard compound tires. Walrus and Guzman, as well as Hemphead, the lone 3, who have chosen to start on the soft tires. Urban, Pontiac Bandit, John the Prince, and Copa have started on the mediums. Everybody else starting on the hards. That's why we saw Walrus and Guzman get away that well, as Johnny Damon probably had a good start, but being on the hard tires on the grid is just not going to go well. Well, it's an early safety car here. I didn't quite see what happened to Curveball. I think he was just by himself when the accident happened. Probably just put the power down a little bit too much. It looks as if we've been joined by Owa in the Red Bull as well, so 19 on the grid. Well, 18 now, but either way. Looks as if the top little gaggle of cars here will stay out. Not many overtakes being made, maybe a position or two. Urban up 3, and I think that may have just been staying out of the way. Pontiac Bandit down 6 after spinning after the safety car had come out. Shiesty in the Haas is going to be the one driver to take to the pit lane here. Probably a front wing change would be my guess if he's stopping this early. And yep, the end plate on the right front side has no longer exists on the Haas. He'll be out of the pit lane here shortly. He'll drop to P18, hoping he can catch back up to the grid quick enough, and we can have a very in and out procedure of a safety car here. A lot of racing left to happen. Curveball, unfortunately, couldn't find his way into turn 3. His race ends just meters exiting the second corner, and what I'm assuming is an accident by himself. Again, one of the drivers that didn't make it into Q2, I don't think. I don't think made it into Q2, was going to be, naturally not warm as far as preparedness. And unfortunately, that's kind of the reality, I think, of the situation. Well, safety car is yet to decide if it's going to come in or not. I think the grid is caught up to itself here, but by standard, I think it's going to be out for 2 laps at a time here. As Curveball leaving the session, so unfortunate for him. Safety car looking like it's going to stay out on track one more time here. So Walrus gets away well, and Guzman gets away, I would say, even better. It looked as if Walrus really cleared Johnny Damon, majoritarily based on the tire compound that the drivers had found themselves on. I think a lot of it was just because Johnny Damon did take the hards, although having stayed third is a good enough result for him in that respect. Komakopa up to 5th after starting on the mediums, getting around Bonga in the process. John the Prince up 2, having got around Manson. And I believe Merck gets overtaken by Charlie Gulf in that proceedings as well. Safety car leads them down towards the 8 and 9 chicane now. Angry Walrus, I'm curious to see how he's going to get away from the safety car here. He said barely any running here in the Grand Prix so far. We have yet to see the true pace out of any driver on track. In fact, I would say we didn't even see the true pace of any of the drivers through Q3. We only had the one dry lap for any of the drivers in through Q3. Safety car making its way in this time by. A lot of questions still to be had here of the grid. Through the hairpin they go now as the safety car making its way down the casino straight. Angry Walrus will have some defending to do here. He's got Guzman behind, Johnny Damon behind him. Despite Damon being on the hards, any mistake could very well be capitalized on. My question is when does Angry Walrus decide to go? I'm assuming it's after exiting the Wall of Champions chicane, maybe once Guzman's in it. Once Guzman's on the way in and Walrus presumably is on the way out, and no, it looks like he's going to get started now. Into the chicane they go. Green flag back in the air as we begin the 4th lap of the Grand Prix after the safety car on the opening lap. Into the first corner they go. Walrus looking as if he's quite clear on Guzman already. Johnny Damon still kind of hanging in the picture here. Not quite enough to really question the authority of Guzman and Walrus's lead, as I do believe Racer X has overtaken Gundolf there going through the first couple of corners. As they make their way through turn 5, 6, and 7 now, we'll go back with Charlie Gulf as he's making his way, currently trying to battle R. Manson here for the 8th spot. Also pressuring that, Charlie, is that of Merck in the Ferrari. Looks as if the top little half of the grid here starting to spread out from each other already, going through in towards the turn 10 hairpin now. Looks as if the closest battle... Oh, we do have Charlie Gulf getting down the inside of R. Manson. Here's Shiesty. Does he look to the inside of Pontiac Bandit? No, he'll actually try the long way around. A bit of a lockup happening ahead. Urban now to the left side of Agnote down the casino straight. And I think the Mercedes is going to have that one relatively easily. Very nicely done. As Angry Walrus fastest lap, it's a 1:12.466. 0.6 of a second. Not necessarily closing in for Guzman, but it's not really getting any further apart, which is good news for him. Through the first sector they go now. I wouldn't expect any massive moves to be happening just yet, the race having only just started. No DRS in play yet. They'll get that one next time by. Exiting turn 7 down this little straight here into the turn 8 and 9 chicane. That's a DRS section. It doesn't really see many overtakes into that corner, but occasionally you do get it on, say, a crucial part of the race. We'll see a driver try to go for it, as Guzman has a small lockup there into the turn 10 hairpin. Gomacopa P5. We do have Urban and Hemphead battling it out now. Urban down the inside of the Williams in question. That being on the way into the hairpin as the two Red Bulls behind follow suit. Down to the inside now is Hemphead. I tell you what, maybe a little bit of contact there with the inside of Urban. Not quite. Not alarmingly enough. DRS enabled now. They'll get that once again coming out of turn 7. The two Red Bulls inverting position, as well as Bonget and Gomacopa. That time getting in towards turn 1. Bonget gets the 5th spot. Onyote, a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. That going through the wall of champion chicane. It's a very common place to pick up a penalty, that. As the field making their way through turns 5 into 6 and 7 now. DRS activated for Guzman. He's not quite close enough yet. I think, if anything, we're going to see that move be made exiting the hairpin down the casino straight. That is a long enough straight to try to make something happen, but it's going to depend on the exit of turn 10 here. A little bit of a lockup there for Angry Walrus. And I would say, yeah, that Aston Martin looks as if it has gotten away better. John the Brint's trying his best to find something on Gomacopa here, but not quite enough. Down the casino straight they go. I tell you what, Guzman shaved off about 0.4 of a second there back to Walrus. They'll have DRS once more down the pit straight. It'll be a gutsy move into turn 1, and I don't think Guzman is close enough yet to make it happen. It looks as if Merck has gotten around R. Manson. John the Prince, however, a 3-second time penalty for him, that being through the wall of champion chicane. The battle for the lead within 0.4 of a second here. As for the time being, Walrus is not in necessarily a comfortable of a lead, as I kind of expected him to be with how dominant he was in the first 2 sessions of qualifying. It's looking as if Guzman might have a fair opportunity here at challenging the Aston Martin for the lead. We'll check back in with that in a minute as these drivers here making their way out of turn 2. The safety car early on. Merck and DRL Racer X side by side through turn 7 as Shiesty picks up 3 seconds. As I believe that was exiting, maybe cutting the corner through turn 6. No, that was going through 3 and 4 is what that was from. I was looking at the other Haas of Charlie Golf. Oh, bit of an accident there. Merck is off. 2 drivers have gone round. DRL Racer X and Merck to the inside. And I'm afraid that's going to be another safety car there. I think, Merck is the one who crashed first, and I think Racer X may have just been caught up in that somehow. And now we're going to see some tire strategy come into play as Angry Walrus on the way in. Start of the race on the softs. Johnny Damon stays out, as you'd expect. Reimer staying out as well. Not many drivers choosing the pit lane here. Oh, that would have been an unsafe release in real life. Walrus does stay ahead of Guzman here. Gomacopa stays out on the medium tires, which I didn't really expect him to pit. The top 3 now, Johnny Damon, Reimer, and Bonget. Gomacopa takes 4th. Charlie Gulf to 5th, Walrus 6th, and Guzman 7th. The 2 drivers battling for the lead now have a little bit of work to do. Of course, the drivers ahead will be on worse tires, but still on the hards. They'll be looking to go all the way. Well, I say all the way. They'll be at least looking to extend this first stop as much as they can. I would assume those hard tires are going to last well into the 20-lap range. And as they sit under safety car, it's going to be even easier. This is interesting. Hemphead has gone to the softs onto that safety car. It's a bit of an odd decision, but a decision he's made. And the safety car out on track once more here on the 8th lap of the Grand Prix after Merck crashes exiting turn 9. DRL Racer X, I'm afraid, just didn't quite get enough room to navigate and get around the deceased Ferrari of Merck, and that's why he got collected in that. That would be a good time, if you haven't already, to make your race picks. I think Walrus... Oh, goodness me! Johnny Damon has spun on the way into the chicane under safety car. Well, if that's not the most odd thing you'll see all day. He'll fall down to 8th. Gonna restart the hard recording now because, well, as you can see, Johnny Damon down to 8th. The back end of the car comes round under braking, under safety car, into the Wall of Champions chicane. And oddly enough, Reimer now has the lead of the Grand Prix. In a very odd fashion, that has to be said. And he had done that so totally by himself as well. Very, very odd scenario. And now, Reimer has the lead. Walrus up to 5th, Guzman to 6th. Those two drivers that will eventually be, I assume, battling for the lead once more at some point during this race. P5 and P6, even Stevens on tires. My only question here is going to be the Alpine of Comacopa. I'm not entirely sure how those medium tires are going to last. Especially in a sea of those on the hard tires. Those mediums, I think, at least for the opening goings here, might be competitive. As the safety car making its way in this lap. Comacopa 3rd, again, on the medium tires. I think that might be something to look out for here. Not many drivers started the race on the medium compounds. And that's I would say, yeah, being on the mediums is definitely a bit of uncharted territory at the moment. We'll have to wait and see how that turns out. Reimer, the race leader, after Johnny Damon spins under safety car heading into the Wall of Champions chicane a lap ago. Thankfully, he didn't hit anything, but he's going to be wishing he had that one back. Through Wall of Champions they go now. Reimer will lead them back to green flag here as down the pit straight they go. We already see Comacopa under pressure from Charlie. Charlie's going to have a look down to the inside into turn 1. It's a great move from the Haas if he can make it stick. Coma will have the inside through turn 2. Round the outside still is the Haas. And I think maybe was there a little contact there. The Haas temporarily got out of shape. Not really enough to cry foul play. But Comacopa will retain the 3rd spot. For the time being, Reimer has a 7/10 of a second advantage over Bongit as they're making their way down the straight now. Johnny Damon within a couple of tenths of R. Manson here. Johnny Damon will have to get around he will have to get around the Aston Martin if he wants to remain kind of in contention for a good result here. In towards the turn 10 hairpin now. Reimer has the lead by a clean second. Charlie Golf trying to peek his head down to the inside on Comacopa. It's a gutsy one. The Alpine kind of slides up the track. That'll allow Walrus to sneak in behind. Guzman having a good look here. Oh, Walrus contact with Comacopa side by side. Wheel-to-wheel contact now. This is getting very risky. What does Guzman decide to do here? He's going to have to back off as these 4 cars try to pile their way into the Wall of Champions chicane. Guzman heavy into the outside wall. His front wing is gone, and the virtual safety car on track. Comacopa, a 5-second penalty for a severe collision with Guzman, and I think, well, it's a difficult question that, because as you go into the Wall of Champions chicane, naturally you'd have to expect one of them would back out of that, and neither of them did. Could Guzman complain to the stewards about that? Coma's already picked up a 5-second penalty for that. I mean, it's a tough ask. They tried to make it side by side into Wall of Champions. And as it turns out, the mistake is not where... the accident is not where we expected it to be. We were kind of looking at Walrus, Charlie, and Coma battle down the back straight, and that wasn't really what had happened. Urban getting around Gundolf there as they make it back to green. R. Manson, a 3-second penalty. Oh, the Aston Martin nearly went around there. Johnny Damon now trying to look for the inside of Comacopa. This is in towards turn 10. Copa's going to drift out wide. Damon will have the inside. Will he have better acceleration? I don't think he will, but it's going to be even enough. We'll check back with that in a bit, in just a little bit. Walrus now 2.5 tenths of a second behind Charlie. This is for the third spot, and what we would assume is going to be Walrus eventually retaking the lead of the Grand Prix. Guzman on his way in. DRS re-enabled here. 4 tenths of a second separate the top two. About 1.5 seconds separate the top three. Sorry, the top four, really. Yep, just about 1.5 seconds exactly. Owa and Gundolf battling it out through the first corner. Gundolf down to the inside. John the Prince wants in on this as well. Still to the inside of Owa as they head now towards turn 3 and 4. And John the Prince, I think, going to do the right thing that time and back out of the move for now. As now they go through turn 5. John the Prince still pressuring Owa here as Gundolf is in a tight spot, knowing he's got 2 quick drivers behind him. We'll check back with that in a bit. What we have now is Johnny Damon down to the inside on Copa, and that is a, well, you don't often see the moves made down in that section of the track, but you have now. Very nicely done, as Charlie Golf in third picks up a 3-second penalty. He'll drift wide down into turn 10. That being for multiple warnings, that coming out of turn 8 and 9, as Angry Walrus now down to the inside on the fresh, hard tires. Ahead, we see Bongit trying to pressure Reimer for the top spot. As they head into Wall of Champions, Bongit's going to delay the attack for now. Oh, and he's clobbered the wall on the outside and picks up a 3-second penalty for his troubles. Goodness me, that was a hefty impact for Bongit, and that is going to severely impact his race. But now, I mean, what's going to really impact is if he doesn't get out of the way of Walrus, but it looks as if he will, and Walrus will take second. And now it's going to be a mano-a-mano battle for the top spot between Reimer and the Mercedes, Walrus and the Aston Martin, as we get a yellow flag in the back on Yote around at turn 1. A bit of front wing missing there from somebody. I'm not too sure whose front wing that is. Could it be Hemphead? And yeah, I think he is missing the end plate on the right front side there. Yep, so that Williams leaving the scene of the crime with a bit of damage. The majority of the field now on 3-second time penalties, which I would rather have it that way than have it not a lot of people on penalties. Down to the inside is Charlie Golf, because at least at this point we're going to see a battle. Once everybody gets penalties, it all evens out. But Walrus now to the left side, and he'll get Reimer with DRS well before they make it to the chicane. Walrus, who would have thought, he's back to the lead. Undoubtedly probably the quickest driver on track today. Bongit under pressure from Charlie Golf to the right side as they make their way towards turn 1. You don't oftentimes see the overtake in the first corner. Nicely done from the Haas. Down the pit straight they go. Gundolf down to the inside of Urban. On the way into turn 1. Does he try to keep it on the inside? He will. Hemphead 5 seconds for speeding into the pit lane around the outside. Looks the Alpine. Owa in pursuit. John the Prince in on this as well, as the 3 cars immediately ahead of him. Oh, they're going to be side by side, and unfortunately Gundolf has to take to the escape road. Yes, he does, and that is, well, he wanted to go side-by-side with Owa into the corner. Unfortunately, there was either a lack of confidence from the Alpine or there was contact involved. He's missed the corner as we see the procession go by them there. Loses 3 spots as well. Thankfully, he hasn't hit anything, and we stay green. Oh, and now Urban nearly lost the car in front of John the Prince there. John had to back up a little bit as that Mercedes nearly went around in front of him. 6 drivers remain without time penalties, the majority having 3 seconds. Notably, Charlie Golf and Bongit battling for the 3rd spot. That's going to be even Stevens' battle. Although, oh, we have a yellow flag. Charlie is retired. That being at Wall of Champions. I'm not sure. That is, wow, and that must have been a hefty impact on the outside. Yep, that is a massive one, that. And the safety car on track for the 3rd time now. And Charlie Golf, who we just mentioned moments ago, was battling with Bongit for the 3rd spot, and unfortunately, due to what I would assume is going to be pure error on the part of the Haas, his day is done. And we're down to 15 drivers. Front wing going on here for the Red Bull of Agnote. Gundolf on the way in now. I'm assuming we're going to see at least a couple of drivers serve these 5-second penalties. Komakopa is going to be one of them. Remember, he got into it with Guzman once the safety car had come in the lap after, which resulted in the McLaren needing a front wing change. Walrus has the lead, Reimer second. What we could see now, with next time by being 20 laps to go, we could see some drivers make a couple of quick stops here. What we might see is Reimer go from mediums for a lap and then on to the hards, making 2 stops under the safety car here. That wouldn't be an unheard of strategy. But we'll have to wait and see. I don't know how long these mediums are going to last. I would assume they're not going to last 20 laps. So Reimer's going to pit here. He's going to attach the medium tires, I would assume. Yeah, he has yet to stop, I believe. Yet to stop so far. He's going to go for the mediums here. He'll come in after, and I think re-put on the hard compounds. I could be wrong, but that is what I'm going to guess Reimer does. He is one of those drivers that does, from time to time, use some finicky strategies like that. And that's going to promote John the Prince to second. Walrus will stay first. Reimer will only drop to... Will he even drop? Well, I tell you what, that was really close exiting the pit lane there. Reimer nearly had a shout for keeping the second spot, but John the Prince will take second. Johnny Damon third. I'm assuming a lot of them have chosen the mediums. Yes, they have. The 4 drivers there from P3 to P6, Reimer, Damon, Bongett, Manson, have all gone to the mediums. Every driver has made at least 1 stop to this point. Guzman has stopped again. That's his 3rd of the day for an additional front wing. Komakopa drops to 9th, having to serve his 5-second penalty. Hemphead, who I believe just pit that last time, yeah, and he picked up a 3-second penalty in the proceedings, is still on track. He resides 13th. Safety car on track for the 3rd time today is Agnote. 3-second penalty for multiple warnings under safety car. That's a little odd. About halfway through this Grand Prix. Still a lot of racing left to go. We've seen a lot of it been plagued by safety car. Now this is what I'm expecting Reimer to do here. Does he pit again for an additional set of the hard tires? Always thinking about it. No, he stays on track. Well, I'm allowed to be wrong every once in a while. I'm wrong here. I'm a little surprised Reimer didn't make that opportunity. Does he know something I don't about these medium tires? Does he have confidence that they're going to last the final 20 laps here? It's going to be a tall order. I'm thinking maybe does he hope that there's going to be another safety car involved and he can pit for the softs when he gets closer to the end of the Grand Prix. That would be my guess. Well, Walrus back atop the grid here. It's a McLaren in second, but not the one you expect. It's John the Prince in second place. After Guzman, after the safety car had come in the lap after, getting into it with Komakopa, going through Wall of Champions. In fairness, they were trying to go side by side through the corner. I think the game punished Komakopa there. He did make contact with the McLaren, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I would have to look at the footage again. I really thought that maybe the Alpine would have had the rights into that corner. I don't know. It's a tough ask. It really is. I don't know. I think Guzman would have a fair opportunity to yell at the stewards for that one. Just because you get hit in any fashion and it ends in damage, you're going to want a penalty to be applied. But Coma took a penalty in-game, and the safety car making its way in this time by. So it'll be halfway done with the Grand Prix this time by. Look at John the Prince here already. Looking to get an advantage over Angry Walrus now. What does Walrus do here? Does he wait? No, he's going to get on the throttle as soon as he gets out. A little bit of wiggle there from Angry Walrus. Down the pit straight they go. Green flag in the air once again. The 3rd safety car of the day is no more. To the inside goes Reimer. The fresh medium tires, I would assume he'll have a fair look. Oh, and he picks up 3 seconds of penalty. He's cut too much of the corner on the apex trim to the inside of turn 1. Bit of an unorthodox place to pick up a time penalty, but he's done just that. And now, I mean, Walrus knows that he is one of the minority of the grid that does not have a 3-second time penalty. Oh, I think the Haas of Sheisty's gone round. Well, I'm not sure what's happened, but several cars have overtaken him there. As they make their way down into turns 8 and 9. Johnny Damon nearly had a look at John the Prince. Damon not on a 3-second penalty either. Remember, he was he had the lead at some point during the race, and under safety car spun on his own error and fell down to P8, but now here he is fourth. Prince will go deep into the braking zone. Damon nearly gets cut in half by the McLaren, and as he gets on the throttle, he's going to be side by side, and on his fresh mediums, he will get around John the Prince easy enough. Bongit, I think, might do the same. Yes, he does. So Prince losing 2 spots there in just exiting the one corner. We just had a battle moments ago with Copa and Guzman. Remember those two again having the incident earlier on in the race. Angry Walrus leads Reimer by less than 7/10 of a second here, and it's starting to close in. Walrus having stayed out. Now 11-lap-old hard tires would arguably be, well, I would say in fact be, the worst tires on the grid. Reimer's 3-lap-old mediums would certainly be better, as Guzman, oh, something happened with Urban there. It's suddenly quite the gap between Guzman and Urban, I'm not entirely sure. But I would certainly argue that Reimer is at a slight advantage here, considering his tire age. Johnny Damon in on this as well. One of the only drivers, again, with not having a 3-second penalty, looking pretty good for the time being. Heading into the hairpin they go. Walrus leads Reimer by 7/10 of a second. Damon not far behind either. Bongit needs a little bit of work. Guzman down to the inside of Manson into turn 10. Good move there. They'll have DRS next time by, exiting turn 7. They'll have to wait just a little bit longer. As the old saying goes, safety car breed other safety car, and we may be looking, as that's a side-by-side there, Pontiac Bandit and Copa side-by-side into Wall of Champions, and that time it didn't result in a collision, as Pontiac Bandit gets around the Alpine. Meanwhile, I believe somebody picked up a 3-second time penalty. I think it was Manson getting the penalty that time. I could be wrong. The top 3 separated by less than a second at this point. As Owa, 3 seconds for him. He's up to 6. Copa, 3 seconds now. That leaves only 4 drivers on the grid yet to pick up 3 seconds in time penalty. Walrus, Damon, Guzman, and Pontiac Bandits. Well, that'll mean at least the majority of the grid here is going to be battling purely for track position. There's not many drivers. Only 3 on in surplus of 3 seconds of penalty, that being Owa with 6, Hemphead with 5 for speeding in the pit lane, which will get taken off the next time he pits, and then Agnote with 6 himself. Down the casino straight they go. Guzman and the McLaren of John the Prince, they are inverting position there. As Guzman now takes the 5th spot. Guzman very quick in his own right. The top 3 now. Oh, and virtual safety car. That's a little odd. Who is missing front wing? I'm not entirely sure why the virtual safety car has come out here. Copa, could he be missing a front wing? Yes, he is. That would be why. And I'm not sure where he's lost that front wing. It's a bit of an odd place, that. The virtual safety car having only just came out, and now we are looking at the full safety car on track. The full safety car exiting the pit lane in front of Copa here. And, well, it has to be said, that's a bit of a lame call, that, from race control to deploy the full safety car. That, I don't like that one. That will make it our 4th safety car of the day, and, well, if you know anything about Montreal, you'll know that this track has had a funny history regarding safety car and the abundance of them. Well, that'll mean Walrus will have the lead, as he does, although I'm assuming Walrus may pit this time. One of the only drivers still in the 13-lap-old hard tires. Himself and John the Prince are the only 2. Coming up closer on 10 laps to go. It's been a safety car-ridden Grand Prix here. This is the 4th of the day. We have seen some halfway decent racing when the safety car has not been on track. But, well, in honesty, this does open up tire strategy. Walrus in, Reimer in, Damon in. Oh, and Damon's missing a front wing. I must have missed that. That may be part of the reason why we have the safety car out, because we saw Copa lost the front wing. Damon missing his as well. That I didn't see. Now 2 front wings, as Copa drive-through penalty for speeding of the safety car. 2 drivers missing the entirety of front wings. That would be a more acceptable safety car to have. I still think it's a weak call, but I mean, that is slightly expected to be that one. Well, that'll allow the Ferrari of Bongit to have the lead of the Grand Prix here. Guzman second, having the majority of these drivers pit under the last safety car not 7 laps ago. Guzman will have second, Manson third, Urban fourth, Owa up to fifth. Now, Owa and Urban, neither of them had actually participated in the qualifying session. We were only slated to have 17. These were the 2 drivers that joined midway through Q2. Of course, at that point, you're not going to be able to put together a timed attempt. So, I tell you what, good looks for them to be this high up the grid on what I would assume is going to be relatively no knowledge of the track at racing speed other than what we've already had today, which in itself is not a lot. Just a reminder of the upcoming weeks here in the CCRL Elite Tier. We head to Miami next week, March the 13th. Sorry, that's not right. Yeah, no, I looked at that wrong. Dyslexia. Miami, March 20th. That'll be next week. Portimao for Redemption Night, the 27th. And then Barcelona, April the 3rd. Those are the upcoming 3 rounds. And then we head to Las Vegas after that, and that'll be a fun one. Say what you will about Las Vegas. That track does provide some great racing in the virtual world. Well, Bongit will lead the grid back to green here. Komakopa has a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. That being not long ago. We're seeing more drivers up in the 6-second range of penalties, still only 3 of which in excess of 3 seconds. Hemphead for having a a pit lane speeding violation, and the others for track limits. Well, we'll most likely be seeing the safety car in this time by. There it is. Bongit having the lead of the Grand Prix, coming up closer to 10 laps to go. Only, 4 drivers on the grid still without a 3-second penalty or more. Guzman, Pontiac Bandit, Walrus, and Damon. What that does mean is that as Guzman will probably have the lead for in the end result after penalties apply, that is going to mean we're going to see a lot of drivers battle truthfully for track position. Through the wall of champion chicane they go. Entering the 24th lap of the Grand Prix, the safety car has made its way in once again. That was the 4th one of the day, and we're back to green flag racing. We do now see a couple of drivers battle on behind as Walrus wants to get a move on Agnote into the first corner. He's not quite close enough. Reimer down to the inside of Shiesty, the ghosted Haas of Shiesty, as Johnny Damon will get around him as well. Bong at a 3-second time penalty for him. Pontiac Bandit gets around Owa into the 3 and 4 chicane, but picks up a 3-second penalty in the process. As now a 3-car little conundrum here going on in the P10 range. I think John the Prince has gotten away. Oh, that one got a little risky there. 0.5 of a second between the top 2. Remember, Bongit up to 6 seconds in penalty now. Now that is where we're going to start to see drivers come into play as far as penalties are concerned. We'll see it now, but if you've got anything more than 3 seconds, you're going to be taking a beating so far, is pretty much what we've learned. 0.4 of a second here. Angry Walrus getting down the inside of Hemphead, that being on the way out of the hairpin, as Guzman down to the inside of Bongit, and the move which we pretty much thought was going to be on its way has happened, as Guzman takes the lead of the Grand Prix. Remember, that's a bit of a good look for him after having the incident earlier on with Komakopa trying to go side by side into the Wall of Champions. Walrus now, could he have a look to the outside of Owa? It's not going to happen now. Once again, I'll bring this to your attention one more. Safety car breeds other safety car. We've had 4 already today. Still too much time left, I would assume, as we have a bit of a yellow flag. Agnote is spun. This is coming out of turn 2. As John the Prince now has lost a couple of spots. Yes, he has. He's lost it to both Walrus. Oh, and that's a big accordion effect there. Several drivers coming together in those. I wouldn't be surprised if we have at least a couple of drivers there missing a bit of front wing. John the Prince had to check up. He had the car ahead of him, and all the cars piled into each other one by one after that. That could have been preposterously bad. The track stays green after that little collision there. Nothing more than a bit of a traffic jam on a usual 5 o'clock rush hour, that one. But when you're battling at speeds of excess of 100 miles an hour, it gets a little sketchy, doesn't it? What I will say is this: Guzman, despite having the lead of the Grand Prix, Bonga is not giving up here. 10 laps to go now. DRS re-enabled. It's 3.5 tenths of a second or less. Bonga, for the time being. Now remember, he needs to have a 3-second gap between himself and Manson in order to negate the 6 seconds of penalty he has. Manson behind has 3 seconds himself. At the moment, the gap between Bonga and Manson is that of 4.4 seconds. That would be enough for Bonga to keep second place. As Johnny Damon, we have got a couple cars pitting here. Johnny Damon in, Hemphead in as well. I remember Hemphead had to, I think, did he have to serve a 5-second penalty? No. Well, yes, he has done that now. So Hemphead serving his 5-second penalty. Pontiac Bandit looking for the inside of the left side of Owa. It's not going to happen now. Agnote getting past the Ghost of Shiesty. Exiting the hairpin they go. Guzman has the lead by only 0.6 of a second over that of Bonget. Down the casino straight they go. Bonget looking to still improve here. Despite Bonget having the 6 seconds of penalty, he knows that any couple of mistakes from Guzman could result in even him having penalty. Pontiac Bandit getting down the inside of Owa, that being on the way into the Wall of Champion chicane. Made sure to make the move happen before the braking zone, so very nicely done. Gundolf now wanting to make a move on Reimer as they make their way into turn 1. Not quite there yet. You're not going to often see moves made into turn 1. In fact, anything. The moves will majority be made. It's going to be either into turn 1 or it's going to be exiting turn 10. The DRS exits entering DRS range, exiting turn 10 is going to be much more important than any move perhaps into the Wall of Champions chicane. It's just simply not going to happen there. So it's really, I'd say the biggest overtaking zone is the exit of this corner. Guzman still has the lead here. Half a second over Bonget. We are looking at Koma Copa get around the Ghost of Shiesty's past. Angry Walrus now pressuring Urban here. This is for the 4th spot. Remember, Urban did not put together qualifying attempt. He had joined mid-session in through Q2. And for starting at the back of the grid, I tell you what, Walrus is having a good Grand Prix so far. Bit of a mix-up there with John the Prince. I thought there was contact made. There wasn't. Gundolf losing position there to Owa. That's for 8th. Both of the drivers in question on 6 seconds of penalty. Making their way through turn 5 now. Guzman still has a good advantage over Bonget, although what I will say is this. Well, initially I had thought that we were seeing a couple of drivers on different tire strategies. As it turns out, the top 3, all on the same aged tire, give or take the 1 lap. Walrus is in a good spot, though. Despite being a net 8 seconds behind the top 2, he is on quicker tires, so assuming he gets well, there you go. I was about to mention how if he was able to get around his teammate of Manson, he'd have a fair opportunity to get around Bonga and take the 2nd spot, but he's picked up a penalty going through turn 8 and 9, and now 3 drivers remain without penalty. But at least now we're going to see some good battles for position, and we're not going to have to worry as Prince down to the inside of Urban. That'll relegate the Mercedes down to P6. Good move there from John the Prince. We do have now Pontiac Bandit getting around Owa. Johnny Damon down the inside of Koma Copa, exiting turn 10. He's made that one happen. Very nicely done. Johnny Damon, who I think will be slightly disappointed with his result today if he doesn't get into the top 10. Here's a look at positions gained and lost. He's down 10 positions. Urban up 13. As Agnote into the pit lane, that's a little bit odd. No front wing damage, according to my eyes. Soft tires going on, perhaps making an attempt for the fastest lap. That currently belongs to Johnny Damon at a 1:12.370. Agnote will have to improve by over 2 seconds if he wants that time. Look a little bit further back. Gundolf within a 10th and a half of Reimer here. Does he try to make anything happen into 8 and 9? He won't have the real estate for now. As they exit the corner, Reimer still ahead, but only just. Gundolf on 3 seconds, a penalty more. Into the corner they go. Look into the inside. Reimer knows he's there. Reimer affording the Alpine the space to the inside, and now finally we see the two Aston Martin drivers invert positions, although I'm afraid it's not quite going to mean as much now as it would have before Walrus picked up the penalty. Pontiac Bandit round the left side of Owa. These two have been battling quite frequently here, I think. Owa's been involved with it a lot in these past couple of laps. Gundolf 0.2 of a second away from Reimer, not quite. I think if anything, if you're Gundolf now, you want to force Reimer into another mistake, which will get him into picking up a 3-second penalty. That'll at least allow you to be on level pegging as far as penalties go. Johnny Damon, I tell you what though, well, I was going to comment on how he could make up some spots with penalties, but at the time being, he's 7.5 seconds behind Owa. Oh, is Komakopa into the pit lane here. Soft tires on for the Alpine in question. Guzman exiting turn 10. He's got a second advantage over Bongit, I believe. And nope, Bongit will not have DRS back to the McLaren. And now the battle for fourth. John the Prince looking for it on R. Manson as they make their way down the casino straight now. Prince choosing the inside, and he'll have that one relatively quick enough. He'll get around the Aston Martin, and now has 2.5 seconds here to try to challenge Angry Walrus for third. Closest battle on track is that of Reimer and Gundolf. These two have been battling for a little bit now. 5 laps to go. 0.4 of a second in closing these two. It looks as if Reimer might be better on the straight line because Gundolf is right close. Gundolf has to go to the outside that time. Nearly collides with the left rear tire of the Mercedes. As we have Hemphead getting around Agnote, the ghost of Agnote. Guzman here, I think, was not necessarily on the back foot, but this is a driver that we didn't think was necessarily the favorite entering today's Grand Prix. Up 2 spots since the beginning, starts third, Walrus. Remember, it was Guzman, was it Johnny Damon started second. Walrus started on pole, and I think Walrus, should he not take today's win, I think he would feel a little disappointed. That car was, I would argue, the strongest of any all day. Big lock up there for Owa into the turn 10 hairpin. Nearly gets into the back of Pontiac, but not quite. But as I was saying, I think if Walrus not having the win today would be slightly disappointing to him. He was much quicker in the qualifying sessions. He got off the line well. I think maybe did just tire strategy not help him. Perhaps an error on his part, and I think that might be the case. Remember, he had elected to not come in when drivers like Guzman and Bongit and Manson Urban all did. Walrus had decided to stay out and pit under the other safety car, the one after. And unfortunately, I'm assuming that that's why he's as far down as he is. Although, of course, P3 is not going to be bad. And he's nearly, I tell you what, we saw this earlier on. Now, Walrus, since overtaking his teammate of R. Manson for the third spot, had about a 6.5 second gap behind the Bongit. Now, remember, Bongit on 6 seconds a penalty. That's essentially a net 3 seconds of penalty once you factor in that Walrus has his penalties. If Walrus is to be able to get within 3 seconds of Bongit, he will have the second spot. Remember as well, Walrus, as he closes in on Bongit, it's not all that far of a gap between the top two and Walrus. I mean, it's 3.5 seconds from third to second. As Gundolf nearly has a move to be made on Reimer there, not quite. 3 laps to go now. Here in the Montreal Grand Prix, Guzman leads them in towards turn 3 and 4. I'm not entirely sure if Guzman has any what do you call it? If he has any track limits warnings to his name, as far as I'm concerned, he's been quite clean. Damon getting around Pontiac Bandit down the pit straight easy enough. Now again, Gundolf being on 6 seconds of penalties. Oh, as we have a yellow flag. I think it's Pontiac Bandit. Yes, it is. Well, he hasn't hit anything. The track will stay green. I think Gundolf, again, on 6 seconds of penalty, doesn't really have an opportunity to get around Reimer with penalties involved. What he'll have to do, he'll have to pressure Reimer enough for Reimer to make a mistake and pick up an additional penalty. And when having a driver that close to you for that amount of time, he's yet to be outside of a second since this most previous safety car had come in. And a look down to the inside now into turn 10. Bit of a lock up ahead, bit of contact there. Reimer will lose the spot for the time being, although will he have DRS? Well, whether he does or doesn't is irrelevant. He's gotten around Gundolf without the aid of DRS. My, is that Mercedes quick. 2 laps to go. Reimer will have to be very careful to not pick up the penalty here if he does. Remember, Johnny Damon currently in the window to overtake Gundolf. With the Alpine's 3-second penalty yet to be applied, Johnny Damon on the soft tires is starting to close in, so if Reimer picks up a penalty here, Damon will move up to 7th, which will turn it into a halfway decent result for him. He would have still lost 5 spots after it's all said and done, but either way. And now, Walrus within 2.5 seconds of Bongit. This will allow Walrus to take the 2nd spot away from the Ferrari. Bongit has an additional 2 seconds from him up to Guzman, as Guzman making his way down the casino straight for the penultimate time. We'll check back with that in a minute. Gundolf now still looking to battle Reimer here for the 7th spot. This is the closest battle on track. We do also have Comacopa and Hemphead. These guys making their way through 6 and 7. Guzman across the line, final lap of the Grand Prix underway. This driver, by the way, has been so dominant so far this season. Had a streak of 4 race wins in a row. And oh, by the way, won last time out in Spa as well. After having started, well, not even finishing the sprint race last week and then winning the race in Spa. I mean, that is a ridiculous statistic. Winning Brazil, winning Jeddah, and then winning Monza before that. I mean, this guy has been incredible all season long, and he's on his way for another one here. Through turn 10 for the final time. Even if penalties come his way through the Wall of Champions chicane, he's not going to lose any positions unless he gets, well, a 5-second penalty, which would be completely asinine on the part of the game. But Guzman down the casino straight for the final time here. He wasn't the favorite today, that was for sure. That one belongs to Angry Walrus, but it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And Guzman, very familiar with the top step of the podium, and he'll get it again today as he wins the Canadian Grand Prix. Angry Walrus will take 2nd after penalties applied. Bongit will still finish 3rd. A great result for the Ferrari in question. John the Prince will come across the line 4th. I believe the next closest battle on track. Gundolf failed to get around Reimer. And I'm thinking now, Johnny Damon, wow, Damon up to 6th. And Johnny Damon, who was on the outside of the top 10 not many laps ago, finishes P6. Don't remind him of spinning under safety car and losing the lead of the Grand Prix, but finishing 6th is not a bad day by any means. Pontiac Bandit 11th. Comacopa, who I really thought would have a solid opportunity to win today's Grand Prix, or at least finish on the podium, unfortunately might be facing steward reports later on and will finish 12th. 13th, Hemphead. 14th will be Onyote, and that's about it, as the other two did not finish the Grand Prix under their own power. The AIs had taken over for them. Either way, Guzman, driver of the day. Well, hang on, that's a little odd. I would argue that Urban being the driver of the day. That's a little weird. I'll have to look at that. Either way, Guzman taking the top step of the podium as he's deserved. Angry Walrus, well, he'll be feeling a little bit let down on himself, but a great result nonetheless, and that will even further bite into the lead of the championship currently occupied by Knick-Knack, who did not show up today. After it's all said and done here in Montreal, Guzman taking the win, Walrus second, Bong at third, John the Prince fourth, Manson fifth, sixth, Johnny Damon, seventh is Urban, who didn't earn the games driver of the day, but earns mine, up from P19 on the grid up to seventh. Reimer eighth, Gundolf ninth, 10th is Owa, 11th Pontiac Bandit, 12th is Komakopa, 13th Hemphead. Unfortunately for Agnote, Shiesty, and all the way back, well, at least Agnote and Shiesty didn't finish the Grand Prix in control of the car, so that'll be it for them. Well, a very interesting Grand Prix there. Lots of drama in all sorts of facets, but what we do have next week is the Miami Autodrome, one of the newest circuits on calendar, for what should be another entertaining edition of the CCRL Elite Tier season. Hotspot, it's been a pleasure joining you once again here. Thank you for watching us, and hope to see you next week when we go to Miami for round 15.